very pleased to say that Alex Trimble from the band is here tonight to give us the lowdown on the record. Hello, Alex.
Hi.
It's good to see you. Now, the last time I saw you, apart from kind of to do an interview for Game Show, but last time I saw you, you were on stage with a big hat at Community Festival last summer in Finsbury Park in North London, commanding 35,000 people. It was an absolutely fantastic show, I must say.
Yeah, very, very memorable. I think that is the most people we've ever played to at a show with our name at the top of it, you know. That was a moment for sure. Yeah,
it was a fantastic set, and I thought it was a real moment because it was really heartwarming to see just how many people love your band. You know, I mean, when I play the tracks on the radio, you don't get that sense of 35,000 people all with their arms in the air going crazy.
And neither do we most of the time either. I mean, I'm aware that we must have some degree of success because we do this for a living, and that's quite rare in itself. But to see that many people who knew words and they knew the songs. I mean, that's it's unforgettable. I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah, totally. And it's a young audience you've got, I'd say. A kind of 16 through to 25, 30.
That's been interesting, and we've noticed that over the last few years that we, our first album is almost 10 years old now, and a lot of the fans were around that age when the first album came out, and we did another one, and then we went away for a few years and we had a bit of a break, and we came back with another record. But what we noticed was that yes, a lot of those fans had grown up and they were still coming to shows, but also there was a new generation coming in underneath, and we're seeing it again with this record, and it's fascinating. I don't quite understand it, but I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, it's great. Something in what you do connects with people, and they kind of discover you.
I'm very grateful for that.
And they come to the shows and they stick with you. With this new record, False Alarm, what did you want to do?
Well, when I started it, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all, and once was one of the, I guess, the first sort of building blocks of, kind of showing me the way for this record, I guess. And that song was sitting there for a very long time in a very different form, and it was all kind of soft and sweet, and it sounded a bit like a Bee Gees ballad or something like that. And I never really had it pegged for a two-door record. It was just something that was there, but I played it for Jacknife Lee in one of our first sessions, and he really liked it. He liked it so much that he completely tore it apart and stripped it down. And we started building it up again, and he added these huge, powerful drums, and we started adding some more synthesizers in, and it became, what it is now. And I never thought it would be on the record, never mind opening the record. But that's the story of this album, is I didn't know what was going to happen. But that was part of the excitement of making this record.
Yeah, and that illustrates just how crucial Jacknife Lee is, in a way. You've got a strong creative connection. This is the third record that you've made with him.
Absolutely. He is, as far as I'm concerned, he is another member of our band, and he has been. I suppose it started to feel that way on the last record that we made with him, but now he is the first guy that I'll play any ideas that I have to. If I have just anything kind of floating around, or I'll just email him and I'll just say, what do you think of this? Or and we're friends now as well, so if we have some free time, I'll go out and I'll see him, and it's developed into something that feels very natural, and he is absolutely crucial to making Two Door Cinema Club records. He really is a completely unmissable part of this outfit or project, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So he helps define the sound, do you think?
He helps guide. I think that's the best way to put it. I can often be quite scatterbrained when I'm trying to make something, and I'll jump from one thing to another thing, and as a result, I don't end up finishing a lot of things when I'm working on my own. And he's able to rein in what I do and make sense of it. So we have a great way of working. We don't talk a lot when we work, but he will sit kind of manning the desk, and he's always ready to record, and he'll be sitting, he might be programming something or editing something, and I'll wander around the room and I'll try out instruments, and I'll, you know, and as soon as I have an idea, I just kind of yell. He hits record and we put it in, and that's how we make records. And it's taken a long time to find that formula, I guess, or that strategy of making records, but it works so well, and it's always keeps things fresh and exciting, and it's just a very enjoyable way to make a record, where it never quite feels like we're making a record. It doesn't feel like it's not like we've started work now, you know.
Yeah,
we're doing what we do, and we're good at, you know, what each of us are, you know, everyone's working to their strengths, and it I feel very fortunate to have found a kind of working partnership like that.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Sounds like you're playing, just mucking about, experimenting, and then lo and behold, a song comes out of it. Yeah. And he helps turn what could have been a Bee Gees ballad into a kind of gentle banger in a way.
Sure did.
And what's Once about, do you think?
Once is about, there's a thread that runs through this record, which is, I guess, is kind of a commentary on modern life. And I mean, I guess a lot of songs are, but I find it fascinating how we as a species are struggling to cope with this new technology, and it's all of our own making, but we've developed something that is evolving so much faster than we ever could or ever will. And so, you know, going back to the advent of the internet and moving forward into how consumerism has changed and communication has changed, and it's kind of like an endless trove of subject matter, really. And Once again was one of the first that kind of materialized, and I had this line, once in a lifetime, which is a line it's a phrase that's always fascinated me, and of course there's been songs written with that in mind before, Talking Heads for one. But I kind of wanted to reimagine it. You know, what does once in a lifetime mean now? Does it still mean the same thing? Does it still kind of exist? If everything is sort of captured and replicated, and, you know, on your phone, and if you're watching something through a phone, are you really experiencing it in the first place? Did it happen once at all, or is it once if you can watch it 1,000 times over again? And just it's this feeling that phrase has, or is slowly being warped or redefined, and that was the springboard that I needed for this record, which is one of the reasons why it's come first on the record, because I was struggling a little bit to find lyrically a direction, and that just kind of went, okay, here it is.
Yeah, some deep philosophical questions there. There's so much more to a two-door than people realise necessarily.
Yeah, it's for me, I mean, lyrically speaking, for me, it's just a forum to explore ideas, and we make music that is, on this surface, it's quite pretty, you know. It's like it's wearing a lot of makeup. It's quite instant. It's quite accessible. But lyrically, I use that as an opportunity to delve a little bit deeper, and so that's there for anybody who is interested in it, you know. Yeah. But you don't have to go there. Yeah. But it's there if you want to.
Yeah, you can just move your body and
exactly.
Jump up and down. And you can do that to Talk, which has this great dancey 80s electropop thing going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know what you're saying about these themes. I think the themes run through the whole of the record in a way, don't they? You know, this kind
with a lot of them.
This analysis of our reality in 2019.
Yeah.
In the early 21st century, trying to work out what life is about, in a way. Those are the big questions.
Yeah, because I don't know what it's about, and you know, there a few companies or a few groups have become so incredibly powerful and ubiquitous in the last sort of 10 years, and so, you know, who's running the world and where do we fit in? And I mean, Talk is kind of more of that. I guess that's kind of exploring the the consumerism aspect and everything. I guess especially since the advent of Instagram, everything is sort of becoming commodified, and you're not just advertising products anymore. You're advertising yourself or your life or your way of life. It doesn't quite sit right with me. But it's happening, and I don't really know what to make of it, and I can't get on board with it, essentially. But I'm just trying to work my way through it.
You want it all, but you don't want it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, the video is really good fun for Talk.
It is. I'm so in love with that video, and it turned out so much better than I ever had kind of hoped or dreamed. Max Seedentop, who directed it, was a guy that he hadn't been on my radar for a very long time, but I'd seen this project that he did in Namibia. He's half Namibian, half German, and he went there a year or two ago with his father, and they both had this idea to build an installation in the desert, which is 5 or 6 plinths with speakers and solar panels playing Africa by Toto on repeat. And I just love that came out of his mind. That now, because of him, Africa by Toto is playing forever in the middle of the desert in Africa. I mean,
Right.
it's unbelievable. So I thought, okay, we need to work with this guy in some capacity. And he came up with the concept for the video, which he just said, I'm going to take every line that you say and I'm going to put it in front of a camera. That's what's going to happen. And so there's like 85 scenes he wanted to shoot, and we had 1 day to shoot it in. And we thought, this is a great idea for a video, but it's never going to happen. But he made it work, and still to this day, I have no idea how he made it work, but he did. And I'm forever indebted to him, because we've ended up with something that is visually kind of stunning, and
Yeah.
it's very unique, but it feels like he's really listened to us as well. It feels like it's us, and that can be difficult when you're working with somebody who's coming from the outside to interpret your work. They might not always, just get in with it or really understand what you want to present, but he just totally did, and I'm forever grateful for that.
I guess for me, there's a strong 80s theme to the music of this record in many ways, and it really continues in a nice kind of electro way, kind of almost like you could be body popping to this. Which it's something that you've ever done. I mean, it's not your era, is it? You're probably the child of people who body popped in the 80s.
Yeah, I imagine we are. We all came into this world right at the end of the 80s. But I guess in recent years, I've just formed a really strong affection for music from that time. And I found that music from then, some more than others, but I've really connected with it. The bands like the Talking Heads and Devo, especially, and Kraftwerk as well. But it just really were doing something for me that no other music had ever really done before. And they're all bands that I had been aware of, but I'd never really delved as deep as I have until the last few years. And I also have, in the last few years, developed a reasonably unhealthy obsession with synthesizers, and I would say I collect them. Maybe I hoard them. I'm not sure what the right term is, but that era again is where I go to, and I love to find the sounds from that era, and all of that put together just finds its way into the music that we make.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I mean that you can really hear the synth presence on this whole album. I mean the guitars are still there; they're in the mix, but the way that you've used them is quite different. What's satisfaction guaranteed about in you continuing these themes that you've been mentioning?
Yeah, it's continuing in that thread. I guess. I'm wondering about how people are selling things and what they're selling, and well, what is the intent? Because sometimes it doesn't feel like you're being sold a product or something concrete or specific. You're being sold a lifestyle, or you're being sold the guarantee of happiness or contentment. We've been made to feel, I think, that if you're not happy, then something's wrong with your life. You should be happy all the time. That should be your ultimate goal, is to try and attain consistent chronic happiness, which just isn't the case. You know, I mean, happiness is very fleeting, and for some people and sometimes in their life it can be rare, but that's what makes it happiness. That's what makes that feeling so worthwhile. And so I had a little bit of a problem of constantly being bombarded with this idea that I should be happy, and if I'm not, then I'm doing something wrong, and I need to buy a new car, or get more likes or something like that. You know, it just didn't sit with me. A lot of this record is going to be me going, yeah, it didn't sit very well with me, so I had to figure that one out. But it was actually a really joyful song to make, and we discovered between us, myself and Jacknife Lee, Macumba, who are a band from Zimbabwe, and Jacknife gets a lot of records delivered to the studio on a regular basis, and normally when I'll show up in the morning, we'll start the day off with a cup of coffee and just putting on the new records that have arrived and seeing if anything's interesting and seeing what's happening. And so he got this Macumba record, and neither of us had heard of them, and but the voices were, oh my God, it was amazing. It was just unbelievable. And they were singing in a way that was like it was from a time that's been lost, you know, that I haven't heard people singing like that together in a very long time. And so we started playing it while we were writing the song, and it fell in. And so Jacknife recorded it in, and we started sampling them. And I thought, okay, we're going to need permission if we're sampling them. So I was Googling them, trying to see if I could get an email address or something, and it popped up that they were going to be in LA the following week, which is where we were recording. Yeah. And so we thought, okay, well, let's just send them an email and see if they want to come into the studio, and we'll actually write lyrics and we'll get everyone involved. And that happened. And I've never done anything like that. Jacknife, again, he's so much younger in his mind than I am, I think, a lot of the time, and he's really active on some social media, and he will get in touch with young artists and ask if they want to work, and he's totally right. You know, he just says, if you don't ask, you don't get. What's the worst they can say is no.
But this does seem extraordinary. This is fate. A record arrives that you put on that you really liked to such an extent that you want to sample it and use it in your music. Yeah. But it's from Zimbabwe. But the band is still active. I was kind of assuming this was an old record, but the band.
This was a new record.
So this is a current band from Zimbabwe called Macumba. How do you spell that? We're going to have to check them out now.
Mokoomba, I think. No, Mokoomba, Macumba.
Right, and then you ended up meeting them and getting them in to do some stuff.
Yeah, and the idea was that they would sing on this song, but they just sounded so good that they're on a few others.
Really?
As well.
Wow.
Yeah. But this is, I guess you would say, this was their main feature on this record. Is Satisfaction Guaranteed.
Fantastic. That's really exciting. So, and what's their setup?
As a band?
Yeah.
I guess part of it is conventionally rock and roll, and they have a guitar player and a drum player and a bass player, and but where their power comes from is when they sing together, when they sing as a group. And on this record in particular that we were listening to, there was one song that was entirely a cappella and just stunning. I mean, it's nothing to just standing there and watching them sing as a group. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But they also make music with instruments as well, as a band.
Wow, how exciting. And so So Many People is the next song, and this sounds like chic in a way, or a kind of has a chic, a kind of slinky funkiness to it.
Yeah,
but the interesting thing is, I think, with a lot of the guitars on the record, they're kind of really low in the mix, so they're there, you can hear them, and they create a certain kind of effect. They help create this rhythm and this feel, but they're kind of way back. which is quite an interesting approach for what is perceived as a kind of guitar band. I mean, I know that you're not a guitar band, but you do have guitars on stage.
For all intents and purposes, I suppose we are a guitar band. My first instrument is guitar, and Sam, our guitar player, his first instrument is guitar. But I think really what's been happening is we've been using guitars in very different ways. And so the guitars that sound like guitars are the ones that are being pushed to the back. But we've just been trying a lot of different things and new things and with guitars. And so whether it's putting them through something that isn't an amplifier in order to produce sound, or experimenting with pedals and putting them through synthesizers. And I've finally begun to recently understand synthesizers properly, and kind of modular synthesis, and how you can put A with B with C and cross that with D and Z, and this will happen. And you can do that with any sound source. It doesn't have to come from a sine wave or whatever else. And so that became a huge part of I guess just keeping what we do fresh and interesting for us as a band, was to not make our guitars sound like guitars anymore, and to run them in through things and in ways that took us away from I guess repeating ourselves, especially when you're on the road for so long and you're kind of playing the same songs every night, your hands start to fall into very familiar places when you start to write new things. So we're always looking for ways to shake ourselves out of that. And when you're holding this familiar thing in your hands, but it's not doing exactly what you expect when it's coming out of the speakers, it forces you to move in different ways and think in different ways and find different solutions to this problem that you don't quite understand. But yes, there are still normal guitars, but they're a little bit quieter now. No, but it's really interesting, and it creates a great effect. And with so many people, what were you striving for? What's this song about? Ultimately, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's the point. It feels to me like it's about identity, or I guess wondering what is anybody's identity now when we have more than one. I mean, we've always kind of had more than one. There's always been one that we have with people we don't know, with familiar friends, with only the closest people that we know, and there are different sides of us that we show. So that definitely factors into it. And then there are, now we have social media, and now also with us as a band, there's a certain level of success, and that brings different perceptions and different personalities. And so I think all of that in some form is in that song. But sometimes I sit down and write, and I'm not quite sure where it's going, and it might take a few months or even years sometimes for me to really realize what the point was, or what I was looking for. I find that most of my songs are kind of asking questions or just putting ideas out there rather than saying anything concrete. But for me, that's a more interesting way to work.
Yeah.
And that's one of those songs that, I have this vague idea of what I'm getting at, but I'm still not quite sure what the real purpose of that song is for me yet, at least. But I'm sure, that's the thing, other people are going to find different purposes and different meanings from all of this stuff. So it's nice to have a song where I can say, I don't know, just decide.
Yeah.
Decide for yourself.
The real meaning will emerge in the fullness of time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it will. There's an interesting vocal effect on Think.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? And is that your voice being
It
affected?
is my voice, yeah. It's being run through a bunch of different filters, formant filters and distortions and all kinds of things. Think is, I would call it the fastest song on this record that it came to. It was written in a day. And funnily enough, I was having a really bad day. I sat down with a drum machine and a guitar, and it just happened. And so it was this really bare bones thing, and I'm very used to getting very involved with creating songs and spending a really long time on getting every little bit right. But this just spilled out, and it was there. but it was a guitar and a drum machine and my voice. And so I thought, okay, well, this is a chance to still spend time on it, but the song is already there, so we can take it in other places sonically. Playing with the voice is kind of something I've always wanted to do. It's I think a lot of singers have this, but I tend to hate the sound of my own voice, which sounds funny because it's what I do for a living, but I can be overcritical, and I'm very bad at recording myself, and I did record my vocal on this myself and I hated it, and so I was like, okay, what can we do with this? And so that the vocal thing happened, and then Jacknife produced this different drum beat happening, and it became kind of this hip hop thing. And then he was playing me. So someone had landed him with an iPod full of Vietnamese 60s pop. I don't know where it came from, but it was thousands and thousands of songs of this really odd but kind of amazing music, and that really was when we thought, okay, that's what we need to do with this song. So if anyone's interested, get some post-war Vietnamese pop, and you might get a better idea of what we were trying to do with this song.
Right, so that was an inspiration for the vocal effect, do you think? Or,
yeah.
Wow.
For everything on that song, really. Especially the end, and there's kind of a big refrain at the end. It came from an unusual place, I suppose, this one.
Yeah, and because it does sound like you're having a tough time when you listen to the words, you're kind of questioning things, questioning somebody else.
It was a song of frustration. I think actually really that song is about passing the blame. I think it's about being unhappy but not really wanting to accept responsibility for your own happiness. At least that's what I think it's about now. Like a couple of weeks ago I thought it was about something different, but that's the joy. It's the joy of this.
Yeah, endless interpretation.
Never entirely sure.
So Think is followed by Nice to See You, and this is interesting for the vocals too, because this seems more direct, the way that they've been recorded.
Absolutely.
And then there's a bridge in the song with a rapper.
Open Mike Eagle.
Right, that is right. Okay,
that's Open Mike Eagle.
Right, excellent. He's been on the show. He came in and did some stuff live too. Yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah,
and really talented guy.
Exceptionally so. And funnily enough, that was a similar thing to how the Macumba collaboration came about. We'd already done the collaboration with Macumba, and it seemed so easy that again I heard this Open Mike Eagle record and I thought, wow, this guy he was saying something interesting and unusual and unique. So we sent him an email, said, hey, do you want to be
it's that simple,
come and we've got this song. We sent him the song, and about a week later he sent another version of the song back, but only now he was on it. And that was kind of amazing. It just seems too easy. But he got the song, he understood it, and he was able to contribute to it in a very real and honest way, which I wasn't expecting. But that was kind of special.
And have you met face to face yet?
We haven't, no.
Did you speak on the phone, or is it all via email?
It was all via email.
Wow.
He is a very busy man. And he's doing TV shows and things in America. He's got a lot of things going on, and so we got in touch just as I was finishing my session with Jacknife, and I had to fly back to London. And he was based in LA, and he has his own studio, so no need to come and see anybody. And I guess, I'm very grateful, but it was probably out of the kindness of his own heart. He had a free hour or two and nipped into the studio and did this for us. I feel very, very lucky that he managed to do it and took the time.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, he came in and performed live to air, did a couple of songs live on the show, which was really exciting. And he's such a nice guy, very intelligent, kind of mature.
It seems that way.
Yeah. So I think you'd get on really well. So one day you get to meet him. Maybe he'll do a guest slot.
Hope so.
When you play in LA, he can.
I've always got fingers crossed for festival season. That's always when we'll run into people.
Yeah.
or at least hope to.
Yeah, that would be exciting. And this has an almost Bowie, Scary Monsters era kind of feel to it, I think. That kind of...
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Really, as a whole, the record is pretty upbeat and pretty pacey, but you throw in a few more downbeat moments, and Break is one of them. I guess you could call it a ballad. No, would you think of it as a ballad?
I think it is. I think it was probably more of a ballad before it was decided that it was going to be on this record, and we spent some time working on it. But it still maintains that kind of vibe, I suppose.
Yeah, when I'm listening to things and trying to, make little notes so that I can remind myself what it sounds like and what I've understood of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you use terms like ballad and you think, well, it's a slower song. Does that actually describe it? No, and it's looking for the rest of the vocabulary that can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even entirely sure it's a song,
right?
Because it doesn't really follow, I guess, the typical pop song format. There's no verse, there's no chorus. It's only about 1.5 minutes long, and it kind of happened that way. It was a longer song. It was a song, which is maybe why it doesn't feel like one anymore. But it felt a little bit too sweet and a little bit too frilly. And Jacknife, when he heard it, he said, "I love this, but it sounds like something you've done before. It sounds like you're kind of retreading old ground," and that's like the worst news somebody can give me, I think, when I'm trying to make something new, is that this sounds too familiar. So that then I kind of, back to the drawing board. We still like this. It's got some good bits, so let's see what we can take from it and make from it. And so we stripped down all of the production that I had done on it and around it, and again, just brought it more into an electronic world, and rewrote the lyrics. The lyrics feel a little bit more like a poem than song lyrics in a way. And again, it's kind of asking questions and trying to figure something out, which I was with that song, because I just didn't know. I knew that I wanted to save it. I wanted it to exist in some form, but I didn't know how. So I just started asking questions about like what is this job? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? That doesn't sit right with me. And it became what it is. And I didn't expect it. I really didn't. And again, this is one that is very important, that I thank Jacknife Lee, because I don't think it would have survived without his encouragement and determination. And he didn't want to let go of this either. And I think without his attachment to it, I probably would have, because I probably would have given up. So
yeah,
I owe a lot to him for this song.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, and it works really well within the sequence of the record, isn't it? It's almost as if you need a moment like Break.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of serves as a figurative break in the record as well. It's done its name proud.
Yeah. And then you follow it with Dirty Air, and it gets back upbeat again. And this sees another voice, another one of your many voices, because you're a man of many voices, I think. I mean, you can do these incredibly high notes, and you can go low, which is what you do with Dirty Air.
Yeah, that's kind of been a long time coming. It's I guess it's something that I've always been able to do, and always knew I could do. But I guess when we put out the first couple of records and we started to have a little bit of success, and we all started kind of to feel defined by what had already worked, and kind of scared to move too far away from that. But that's a very dangerous place to go to, and it's a very slippery slope. And I think once you start down that, you're never really going to come back. So with the third record, we did try to shake things up, and with this one, it's just all caution to the winds. If we can do it, let's do it. If we don't know if we can do it, let's try. And it was kind of it started out as a little bit of fun. It was kind of like introducing the idea of characters and writing a song, because also that gives you more to write with, and being able to write from different perspectives, or use different ideas that aren't necessarily my own. And And of course, I mean, like one of my favorite people of all time, I mean, one of my heroes is David Bowie, and he made an entire career out of being other people. And I thought, well, why have I never tried this? And Dirty Air happened. It was kind of like a silly little line that I kind of mumbled into a demo, which was I gave myself to the city, breathe dirty air, about fixing up my hair and all this stuff. And I thought, this is just kind of, it's a placeholder. But the guys really liked it and thought, okay, can you just follow this train of thought and write a song as that guy and be that guy? And it happened.
Yeah. It does work really well. And then there are these other, are they sampled voices in a bit further on into the song?
There is a sample voice.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even tell you who that is. We tried to work to clear this sample, but nobody knows where it came from. It came from a video of another video of a radio in a car. It sounds very strange to try describe this, but it was on YouTube. I think it's a preacher. It sounds like a preacher, but I don't know who he is or where he's from. So I mean, if he ever hears this record, give us a call.
Yeah,
give us
amazing.
A call.
He could be listening to Radio X right now.
We'll write you a check. It won't be for much. I'm sorry, but we'll sort it out.
That's interesting because it almost has the hubbub of Chatter of the City or something to it.
Yeah,
somehow.
Well, that's why I found it really appealing, because the song itself sounded kind of. It sounded almost dystopian in a way, and so I wanted this kind of idea of like impending doom or Armageddon, and so I was looking for the classic fire and brimstone preacher is a really good representation of that. And so this audio recording was coming from being filmed on someone's phone on the radio, and they were in the car and it was raining, and it just added to the whole thing. And I kind of fell in love with it as soon as I came across it.
Satellite, in a way, continues a slightly deeper voice, maybe, but it has this spoken bit in it as well. Is that you again, or is
that's me
that's
again?
You?
Yeah,
spreading your wings, doing lots of different things,
just trying something new. Like a lot of these things, these new things that are happening, it's all just kind of spur of the moment stuff, and not necessarily stuff that I thought would work or that would end up on the record, but if you don't try, you'll never know. And it's been a great thing about making this record is that we do never know. We now have a record that is beyond our wildest dreams, at least. And I mean, very proud of that.
Yeah, that's great. And Satellite has another great video to go with it as well. I mean, it's this trying on different characters in song, but it seems pretty natural now to try on different characters for photos and for videos.
Yeah.
A bit of wig action, and all sorts going on.
Yeah, well, I think not. I mean, not that I'm old, but we started this very young, and I think with some age and some experience, we're just more willing to have a little bit more fun and go a little bit further. And I lost my fear some time ago about what other people might think of me trying this, and I'm not worried about not being very good. I'm just willing to give things a try now, and it's making life a lot more enjoyable. And so we got to work with Owen Glaister on this video, he's nothing short of a genius. I don't really know how else to describe him. His work is amazing. He has a wonderful way with narrative. He's incredibly funny. And so we knew that if we're going to make a video with him, it's going to involve us becoming someone else, and it's going to involve also the dancing was my idea, because we've never danced.
Right.
I mean, why would we? We're a guitar band, but I thought, why don't we just give this a go? And so we hired a choreographer, and we spent a day in a dance studio with a bunch of dancers, and it was just, I mean, everything is just putting a toe in the water and seeing if we can, if we're going to sink or swim, which is constantly thrilling. There's a lot. I mean, it's very anxiety-inducing as well, but it's about the rush, and I'm so pleased with the result of that video.
Ticket to ride, reckless abandon, time on your side, into the future, the water is fine.
it's mostly from Owen's mind, which, I mean, how could it not be? But
yeah, but it is fantastic. But you pull it off really well, all of you. Kind of fall into it as if, well, of course we're going to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Bit of dancing, bit
Sure.
of acting, and
There's aliens, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, totally. And does that link into the cover of this album?
The cover was really the beginning of everything. Once the music was done, and again, I mean, I'm realizing, talking through all of this in one go, how fortunate we have been with putting this record together. Another person who I had wanted to work with for a very long time is Alexandra Kingo, who is a phenomenal photographer. Incredibly unique. She has her own style to a T, and it is unmistakable and is inimitable as well. You know, I've seen, like, Instagram is awash with people trying to be like Alexandra Kingo. She is just amazing, and we were lucky enough to be able to meet her, and we played her some music, and we also had the title. We said it's going to be called False Alarm, and I had all these references of album covers I liked, and these ideas of characters, and so Kraftwerk were a big influence on that one, especially when it came to the wigs, and I knew I wanted all of these kind of signals or signs of alarm, and so whether that's a fire alarm or a telephone or whatever, and she was looking at me as I was talking this, and she was scribbling something on a notepad, and she picked it up, turned it around and showed it to me. She said something like this, and that was it. That was the album cover. She'd drawn it, and I was like, okay, let's go and do that. And again, just turned out so much better than we ever could have dreamed, and she'd come up with other ideas for other photographs, and all of a sudden we had characters, and we had an aesthetic, we had color schemes, and we had it seemed to be opening up a world, which is what we've really always tried to achieve as a band. You know, we've always wanted to be able to bring people into our world, whether that's just the world of one record. You know, it doesn't have to be the Two Door Cinema Club world, but and tying in the artwork with the music videos, with how the stage is going to look when we're playing on it, and we were afforded the time and the opportunity to make that really happen. But it really all did start with Alex and her photographs. She kind of gifted us with the most amazing imagery that we could have hoped for.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Especially the idea that she did a drawing of what you were telling her, and then presented the drawing to you before she took any photographs. I was reading, there's a guy I am aware of, Grant Scott, who's a photographer, and he teaches photography as well. And he was saying that one of the things that he likes to do is to get his budding photographers to do some drawing and to study drawing a little, because he thinks it's a good way of learning how to look at things. And it sounds like she's already practicing
she's
this.
Got it down, yeah.
Amazing. And to help give you a direction. So this is, all these colours and these outfits and these wigs are going to make it to the stage. Are you going to be in wigs at all?
We've still got them.
Right.
I think it might be a bit of a tall order to play 2 hours in a wig. But,
you did persist with that 10-gallon hat or whatever it was.
I did, but that was always very helpful. I'm a very fair-skinned person.
So especially outdoor events.
So outdoor events, it became kind of necessary. It probably going to make a return this summer, I have no doubt. But the wigs, they get a little bit itchy after a while, but we'll see. I mean, we're stockpiling everything that we're using in the videos, and they are coming back. I mean, the wigs did come back for the videos, and we'll see. We're keeping them because we know we're going to use them. We just don't know how or when. Yeah,
and you'll have to program costume changes possibly into a set.
Who knows?
Which adds another dimension. Maybe some dancers can come on while you quickly change your costume or something, and then I don't know. Sorry, I'm thinking aloud.
No, this is great.
Already Gone is the last track on the album. It's your exit music tonight. What can you tell us about Already Gone?
In terms of the songwriting, I think it's one of the biggest departures that I've ever made, at least within this band. And a lot of songs kind of come about in Two Door Cinema Club at least the more unusual ones, or when I have a song that I don't think is ever going to be right for the band, but the guys like it and want to pursue it. I guess it's the closest thing to prog we've ever done in terms of not just the music but the concept as well. I mean, lyrically it's deviating a little bit from the theme, but it's kind of it is kind of developing this kind of conceptual fantasy world, and the song is sung from the perspective of the internet as if it were a sentient being, and it was failed by humanity, and it's leaving Earth, and it's leaving us in our mess that we've made, and it's all very fantastical and kind of silly, but I really enjoyed the challenge of writing a song like that and trying to make it beautiful at the same time, and it was just a very, very exciting and interesting process to go through writing that song, and actually building a world and a concept around a song, never mind an album, never mind a band. It was very liberating, exceptionally liberating, and how it ends, I mean, you'll hear how it ends. That's all part of it as well, you know.
Interesting. Wow. And so this could open doors for other
it already
projects,
has, let me
right?
tell you.
Yeah, fantastic. And one question I haven't really asked is False Alarm. What is behind the title?
I guess it seemed like the best thing that could sum up this thread that's running through the album, that there's a lot coming at us from everywhere now, and it's not just like it used to be. It's not just the radio and the television and the newspapers. It's we carry it around with us 24/7. These phones in our pockets or tablets or whatever they are. We're wearing headphones, and stuff is coming in, and we're getting buzzes and dings, and it could be a funny picture from a friend, or it could be a piece of terrible news, or it could be, but all of it is being delivered to us in the same medium, often with the same ringtone or the same vibration, and I personally find that quite anxiety inducing, just that your phone goes and you don't know what's happening, and most of the time it is, and here we go, it's a false alarm. But I find myself, when I see a lot of people that I know and meet, are kind of living with this chronic low-level anxiety of, what's going to happen next, what's coming, but most of the time it's it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, and it's very important that you recognize it, but it's not worth the anguish that we spend, or that we hold on to, I think, through a lot of our days.
Yeah, interesting. No wonder the internet thinks that humanity has let them down.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex, thanks so much for coming in tonight.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been really, really interesting.
Radio X.